With only a few weeks left in the 2020 NFL regular season, who are the best candidates for Coach of the Year? Neil and I will tell you ours right now. What is up? This is the Bottom Line Podcast. I'm Jimmy Fedizzi alongside Neil Villapiano. We hope you're doing well. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to listen to us. We really do appreciate it. Before we get started, questions, opinions, as always, Twitter and Instagram at BottomLineWMCX and on Twitter at The NVP Show. Hashtag BottomLine. Leave a voice message on the Anchor app or Anchor.fm. And as always, if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like and a comment down below if you like what you see. Helps out tremendously, and please make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss a single episode. And please make sure you subscribe on all audio listening platforms. Just include Jimmy when searching for the Bottom Line Podcast. Neil, first and foremost, how are you doing?
Allergies are kicking my ass, Jimmy.
Goodness.
I don't. This year, more than any other, has been a really tough year for me when it comes to allergies, and because obviously we're still dealing with COVID-19. The scary thing a lot of the time is that when I start to have a little bit of a cough or something like that, I start to have this massive panic in my head thinking is this what I think it is? But
yeah,
I've been lucky that it hasn't been that. But still, it's not fun to go through. But
right.
Other than that, I've been doing well, continuing to stay in good physical and mental shape, which is always important.
Good.
And just staying busy with my work. I actually just posted a new YouTube video yesterday, Wednesday, the 9th of December, talking about why I felt that Notre Dame this year in college football is the real deal and why I think they're a legitimate team as opposed to when they went to the national championship game in 2012. I had another good episode of Mofobo Network podcast, which you can find on Anchor and Spotify. Please go subscribe to that as well. Had an episode on Tuesday talking about Richie Dick Allen, the
God rest his soul.
Right, and probably soon to be Hall of Famer at this point. I think now that he's passed away, I feel like they're going to end up honoring him by putting him in the Hall. It's too little, too late.
He probably should have been in the first place, but that's another argument for another day.
There is no question he should have been in the Hall of Fame. The numbers speak for themselves, but there's a lot of things. And if you listen to the episode, there's a lot of reasons as to why he didn't get in. And I actually have one of our good friends from the Bottom Line podcast, Andrew Huntington, coming on later on today on the Mofobo Network podcast. We're going to be talking about how the New York Giants have gotten to the point where they are now 5-7. And as of right now, even though they are tied record-wise with Washington, they are in first place in the NFC East. So a lot of good stuff. New Devil's State of Mind podcast episode will be out later on today. They're already out, but I usually don't promote them until about noon, 1 o'clock time frame. But that'll be out. You can check it out on, you could just search Devil's State of Mind podcast and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, anywhere. You can listen to that. We also have Twitter and Instagram at Devil's State on Twitter, at Devil's State of Mind on Instagram. And there you can if you go to the bio, you could actually go to our Pinecast website where you could just right there, you could stay up to date with all the episodes that we have. It's kind of like a shortcut to where you could just get all the new episodes that we post now every Monday and Thursday. So now you get twice the amount of content every
Hell yeah, man. There you go.
So as you can see, I'm a very busy man nowadays, and continuing to promote my new book, which is always
which
is always good.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if you don't know, Neil did publish his second book, Meet the Mets Mess. If you don't already know, it's available now on Amazon or wherever ebooks and hard copies are sold for the price of $19.69. Same with his Jets book as well. So please go buy both of his books. It would really mean a ton to him. Like I said, on Amazon or wherever hard copies are sold. But that's really, really good stuff. I do feel you on the allergies. My throat's been kind of hurting. Well, not hurting me. It's been like sore the past couple of days, but thankfully it isn't COVID related, thank God. But my voice should be back to its normal self by hopefully the next day or so. But other than that, I'm fine, no complaints. But
lucky you, we don't have any Whalers games at the moment, so you won't be worried about your voice being lost during those games. So
yeah, I probably would have lost it by then. But also, in case you did not hear, we had mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but unfortunately, the Whalers season has been put on full pause until at least January 2nd of 2021. So, crossing our fingers that it does last that long, but we should be back and better than ever soon. Stay tuned for updates on Bottom Line on Twitter and Instagram, and also on Neil's social media as well for more updates on that. But with all that being said, enough complaining about our allergies and stuff like that. Today, we're going to be talking about who we think has the best chance of getting NFL Coach of the Year, as we have only a few weeks left in the regular season. And I got to be honest, the fact that we even made it this far is truly, truly amazing. But that's another argument for another day. But before we actually talk about that, Neil, I am rebounding with hopefully a tougher trivia question than you gave me last week. I'm not going to lie. Cool. Yours was tough. It was. I got none of it right, which I was expecting. But again, I will take the fact that I got a year right out of that question. So that was pretty much my only takeaway from that. Yep. But I will say this: if you get the answer to this, I will be stunned. So
bring it.
Here's the question. Keeping with the theme of the Philadelphia Eagles, since the big news that Jalen Hurts will now be the starting quarterback for the Eagles, they have benched Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts will now become the second youngest quarterback to start a game in NFL history for the Eagles. Who was the only one that started younger than Jalen Hurts?
How old is Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts turned 22 in August.
22. Okay. Thanks. You gotta go Eagles history. I mean, there's a couple names that kind of stand out. Probably the answer. Well, I don't think it's probably as obvious as I would think. But how many guesses do I get? Do I get one?
I'll give you two for this one.
You two? All right, cool. So
I'll be fair.
That's fair. So I'm going to throw out an obvious one.
Okay.
I'm going to say Randall Cunningham.
Oh, so close, but incorrect. Try again. You're close.
And when you say close, you mean close in years?
You have to go back. I'm trying to think without giving it away. It's not in the 80s. I'll give you that much. Not in the 80s.
It's in the 90s, isn't it?
Nope.
Because I was going to say, it's not Doug Peterson, I'll tell you that.
No, it's not Doug Peterson, no.
Probably not McNabb. I mean, it could be right.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. It's true. You know, there's one quarter.
But it's not Randall Cunningham, and it's not in the 80s. That's all I'm going to say.
Not in the 80s, right. Well, there's a couple other names, and unfortunately, you've only given me two chances, so this is more difficult. You know, there was, there was a quarterback in the 90s. He wore, I think, number 8 or 9. Right. And I can't remember his name. And you're probably going to end up telling me after I get it wrong. You know what? Just so that people can be impressed with my knowledge, even though this is probably not the right answer, I'm going to go back to the 60s. I think 60s, 50s maybe. And I'm going to go with Norm Van Brocklin.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with that name, but that is also incorrect. Okay. You were in the right era, though, when you were thinking about the 60s, though. That's when you have to go back. Jack Concannon is the answer. Okay. He started 2 games in 1964 when he was 21. 21. So Jack Concannon is the answer. But you know what? That was very impressive work. I got to hand it to you. That was a job well done.
I knew it was, in the back of my mind, I kind of figured it wasn't going to be an obvious name. It wasn't going to be a name that most people would know. But at the same time, it's also about making sure you don't overthink it and you don't, and sometimes the first answer you have is possibly the right answer.
Right.
And I knew it definitely wasn't Ron Jaworski. I knew that.
No.
And definitely not Donovan McNabb. Neither one of them. I mean, both of them were on the older side when they actually started playing.
Right.
But yeah, like Norm Van Brocklin, I was like, wow, I mean, he played for the Eagles for several years, and I imagine he probably got in the NFL when he was pretty young. So I was also thinking, like, what, they started like 18 years old? Like he was 18 and he played? No, I didn't. But what was his name again? Jack what?
Jack Concannon.
Concannon. Okay, I'm gonna look that up now because I have no idea who that is.
It's all good, but
no, that was a good one. That was a good one. You got me.
Hey, it's all right, but hey, you know what? That was a better job than I did last week. Don't be an idiot like me and overthink it. But I digress on that one. But anyway, with that being said,
does his last name start with a C?
Yes.
Well,
while Neil's looking that up today.
How is his last name spelled?
C-O-N and then Cannon.
C-O-N. Okay.
C-O-N, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was an A. You said Cannon.
It's all right. It's all right.
Here we go. He played for the Eagles from 64 to 66. Chicago from 67 to 71. Green Bay at 74, and then Detroit in 75. So he had about a decade. Played about a decade of football. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Threw for 36 touchdowns, just over 6,000 yards, completed just over almost exactly 50% of his passes, which is
wow.
impressive. How many games did he win? I don't think they even tell you here. Oh, no, they tell you. He had a 20-24-1 record. So he did.
Oh, wow.
We did tie one time in 1967 again with the Bears. That was pretty good. I know it sounds terrible, but his most touchdowns ever was 16 in 1970 with Chicago. So he had a better career in Chicago than he did in Philly. But he's from Boston, Mass. There you go. I think he's still alive. Yeah, it's not that old.
Yeah, he is.
1943, he would be, I believe he's pushing 80 now.
Yeah, he is. Almost there.
70s. Yep. But, there you go.
I believe he's 77, 78 right now.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
Anyway, all that being said, hey, the more you know, right? But anyway, so, excuse me. So, today, like I said, we were talking about who Neil and I think has the best chance of getting NFL Coach of the Year. We are only a few weeks away from the NFL playoffs. It is sure to be very, very exciting. Neil and I have already made our spiels about the New York Giants and the red-hot run that they're on right now. Neil's going to talk about it on Mofobo later on, so go subscribe if you want to check that out for yourself. I already gave my spiel a couple of times, and if you want to hear what I had to say, go check out past episodes where I was solo talking about that. But anyway, Coach of the Year. I actually pulled up a website here called sportsbettingdime.com that gives NFL Coach of the Year odds. And they are as follows as of December 9th. These were updated. So obviously these will change next week. As of right now, though, at the time of this recording, Mike Tomlin is still the favorite, even though the Steelers lost. He is still the favorite at plus 200. Mm-hmm. Brian Flores of the Dolphins is at plus 300. He's the second favorite. Kevin Stefanski of the Browns is the third favorite at plus 400, followed by Ron Rivera at plus 500. Joe Judge at plus 800, which is a bit of a surprise there. Sean Payton with the Saints at plus 1,200. Sean McDermott of the Bills at plus 1,400. Yeah. Frank Reich with the Colts at plus 2,000. Bill Belichick at plus 2,500, which is an absolute stunner to me, but I digress there. Andy Reid at plus 3,300. Matt LaFleur also at plus 3,300. And also at plus 3,300 are Mike Vrabel and Sean McVay. So, look, all of these have great potential to actually get Coach of the Year. But if you really want to talk about who has the best chance, I personally look at three guys, and I wrote them down here specifically. I look at Mike Tomlin, obviously, because of the hell of a job that he's done with the Steelers.
Yeah.
I know the Steelers haven't looked all that impressive the past couple of weeks, but
certainly not this past week against Washington.
No.
Really bad.
No. Look, the Steelers haven't looked all that impressive the past couple of weeks, but you know what? You can't say enough about the job that Mike Tomlin has done with the Steelers. He is probably one of the best coaches in NFL history right now, destined to be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. And if he's not, it's an absolute crime. But look, Mike Tomlin's definitely first on my list there. I also have Brian Flores here because if you really, really think about the job that he has done, from the second half of last season, from when they were, 0-7, the Dolphins were, and then they played in the second half harder than I have ever seen a team play for a head coach. That team loves Brian Flores. He has done a terrific job, especially when you look at that defensive side of the ball. I mean, my God, that is nothing to joke about. So Brian Flores has that Dolphins team playing hard, and they actually have a chance to go to the playoffs, potentially in a wild card spot with the job that he's doing. So you got to give it to Brian Flores. He is definitely second on my list. And I know I said this might have been a bit of a surprise when I read this name earlier, but I actually also have this guy on my list here. I actually do have Joe Judge as a chance to get it. And why is that? Because how has that man not lost the locker room? Because if you really, really think about it, this team was 0-5 and 1-7. The fact that Joe Judge has not lost that locker room and he has his guys competing every single week, and every single one of those weeks, you have seen much improvement from the Giants, especially on the defense and especially with their starting quarterback. Granted, he's hurt, although he could play against Arizona, but that's another discussion for another day. But you have especially seen improvement with Daniel Jones over the past 2.5 weeks. We'll see what he does against Arizona if he plays. And look, Colt McCoy did what he had to do against Seattle. I was not expecting him to beat Seattle. I don't think anybody was, but they shocked the world with that win. Go ahead, Neil.
I know I did. I thought they had a shot to beat them because I had seen. Look, I had spoken to with several people. I saw how they played against Philly the week before, and they didn't impress me in any way. They didn't make it seem like, oh, they were really looking. And look, people want to say, oh, Russell Wilson was off and everything like that. I think the reality is that Seattle just didn't think that they had to go out and play 100% to beat the Giants.
The Giants defense shut them down. Well, completely.
It's the classic, you underestimate your opponent. And you have to realize everybody in the NFL is a professional. Like, they're there for a reason, and they're very talented, regardless of what you think of the player and what you define as talented. Every single player on every single team has some talent. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. We all know that. That's true. So, the Seahawks came into that game thinking that they were just going to roll on against the Giants. I personally didn't think that because you just have seen over the last couple of weeks what the Giants have been able to do. Was I still surprised that they won, even though I felt like they were going to win? Yeah, because again, it's one of those things where it doesn't come to reality until it actually happens. So, for them, that was a statement victory. That was a giant statement victory by them to go to Seattle across country to win that game with a backup quarterback. It was very impressive. Very impressive. And if only Evan Engram could stop dropping balls for interceptions, but I digress. But I think he's severely overrated, by the way, but that's another argument for another day. But anyway, back to Joe Judge for a minute. Like I said, this team was 0-5 and 1-7, and the fact that he has not lost the locker room and that he has his guys competing every single week, and every single week you see nothing but improvements. They have won 4 in a row. They're on an incredible run right now. They actually have a legitimate chance to win the NFC East. I know we joke a lot about, and I know it's a fact, I know we talk about, the NFC East is putrid. Look who's in the division. Look, I get that. But if you really, really look at it, who's the best team in that division right now? The New York Giants. Well, I know Washington's look pretty good with Alex Smith, the quarterback. And by the way, about Washington,
Alex Smith, I can't say enough about what an amazing story that he's been so far. I mean, I got to give him all the credit in the world. The fact that he's going out there playing winning football for the first time in God knows how long is absolutely amazing. So I wish I had a cap so I could tip it to Alex Smith because it is a job well done.
I'll drink to that.
There you go. But no, seriously, Alex Smith, bravo, well done to you, sir. But I know Washington has looked really, really good, but really the Giants to me are slightly better when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. I know Chase Young is no joke. Chase Young is nothing to be reckoned with on that Washington defense. But You look at the guys who are on the Giants defense. James Bradbury, probably their best player right now. Blake Martinez, who has been a monster. Logan Ryan, who has really, really improved as of late. You have all these guys. The safety position has improved a ton. Look, the Giants, the fact that they're playing this hard for a rookie head coach, who is a special teams coach, I should add. Yeah. So clearly he has an idea of what he's doing. And look, the staff around him has done a terrific job. Yes, I still question the play calling with Jason Garrett sometimes, but you know what? It has improved a little bit. I expect nothing but improvements here. Look, if the Giants somehow, I heard this argument on the Michael Kay show the other day. I've heard the talk about, if they go 2-2 and they don't make the playoffs, I'll be disappointed. Yes, I will be disappointed. Absolutely. Because you went on this incredible run. Why wouldn't you be disappointed? Absolutely. If you miss out on the playoffs and you go 8-8 and miss out, of course you're going to be disappointed. But you know what?
8 wins is incredible, in my opinion.
No, abso-freaking-lutely. No question about it. Yeah. But I will say this, and I will admit this to you, Neil. If the Giants go 2-2 and the 2 losses are on Daniel Jones, then you have to worry about him. I'm sorry, you do. Because even though he has improved the past 2.5 weeks, we still do not know if he is the definitive franchise quarterback. I'm just going to come out and admit it right now so none of you kill me for being a Daniel Jones apologist, all right? So I'm going to get that out of the way right now.
I still think you are. Well, regardless of whether you're jumping
you know what? I'm also a truther, and I will call things out as I see them. So there's that. But anyway, I digress there. That's another tangent for another day. But look, Joe Judge, you can't say enough about the job that he's done. Do I think he's going to win Coach of the Year? No. Do I think he has a hell of a chance? Absolutely, yes. So who do I think is going to win Coach of the Year? Bottom line, I think it is going to be Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Neil, the floor is yours. Well, and by the way, I'm sorry. No disrespect to Brian Flores. He also has a hell of a chance. But Mike Tomlin definitely deserves it. Go ahead, Neil. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, you look at some of the guys that you mentioned. And, yeah, I think, when I look at the guys that I have on my list, which I think is about 6 coaches, I look at them and all of them have a legitimate shot of winning it, considering what they've done. I mean, again, you talk about Mike Tomlin, who, you look at the last year or two, a lot of people were wondering if Mike Tomlin was going to be fired by the Steelers. It seemed like that they were kind of going on the downswing. They lost Le'Veon Bell, they lost Antonio Brown, and they come back this year after last year being one of the most disappointing and difficult seasons to deal with if you're a Steelers fan, with having Big Ben out most of the year, and Mason Rudolph really not doing very much. Duck Dodges was just a meme, and the team just looked like in shambles. Then they come back this year and they've been, in some games they've really, really, been the better team, and they proved it. Other games they look, so-so. But you look at it, they're 11-1. They're clearly running away with their division. They're going to probably run away with maybe possibly the best record in the NFL. Maybe. It just depends on how it goes down the stretch and how Mike Tomlin handles it.
Right.
You got to give credit to Big Ben, who has seemed to almost, turn back the clock about 4 or 5 years, and he's looked, better than he's looked in the last handful of years. So,
and he's 38.
And he's 38 years of age. So that really shows you, how tough this guy is and how much he's still, how talented he still is at the quarterback position.
Absolutely.
And then you look at that defense, led by the best tackler in the National Football League in T.J. Watt. They lost Bud Dupree to a, season-ending ACL injury, which is devastating. But then they have some talented players in the quarterback and safety position. Their linebacking core is solid. There's the biggest weakness for the Steelers probably is the fact that their offense doesn't have a legit running game without James Conner.
Right.
And that's a problem. And I think if they had established a run a little bit more against Washington, they might have won that game. But again, that's just how it is. That's football, and you got to live with the decisions that you make. Mike Tomlin,
Susan.
Yeah, yes, that was
terrible. Anyway, I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but Mike Tomlin has done a tremendous job. This has arguably been his best regular season. Do I think that he is the front runner to win Coach of the Year? I think based off of record, probably. I don't personally think so because, again, you look at someone like Brian Flores, who, like you mentioned, first half of last season, team hadn't won a game, and it looked like, okay, clearly the Dolphins made the wrong choice as their head coach. But they got their first win against the Jets because everybody does. And they had a tremendous second half of the season. They had that upset victory against New England in New England to force the Patriots to have to play in a wild card game instead of having a first-round bye, which was huge, and that proved to be the downfall of the Patriots that season. Then they come into this year, they draft Tua Tagovailoa, in the first round as their franchise quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick starts the year, and he's playing pretty well. It was a shock to me that they benched him while they were playing well. And, Tua has looked okay. He hasn't looked great. I think this is just because he's a rookie and he's trying to learn, and he has a pretty young team around him. Devontae Parker has been a tremendous, tremendous player in his entire career with Miami. This year, I feel like this has been his best season. That defense, led by guys like Byron Jones, have done really well. They play very hard for Brian Flores. And I think Brian Flores is definitely a player's coach. I remember when, the Bengals this past week against Miami, you had that hit during a fair catch, and it proceeded to knock out. I forgot who was supposed to return that punt. Knocked out, and Brian Flores immediately ran on the field and wanted to fight the guy who hit his own player. And that kind of shows you as a player that says, okay, this coach is
was it Higgins or somebody else?
I don't remember who exactly was. But the fact that Brian Flores is going out there to try to protect his players in any means necessary, even physically, that just gives this Dolphins team confidence and that trust that that they can have in their head coach, and that goes a long way. And hopefully, it leads them to the playoffs. I don't remember the last time. I think the last time they made the playoffs was, I want to say 2008. To be honest,
I think you're right. Yeah,
I think when Chad Pennington was the quarterback, and then
which says a lot.
Guys like Kevin Stefanski, and then you have a guy like Kevin Stefanski who, to me, it looks like they finally found a legit, head coach, a guy that deserved to get an opportunity and is taking advantage of it. He has definitely.
By the way, I don't mean to cut you off, Neil. I'm sincerely sorry, but the Miami Dolphins actually last made the playoffs in 2016 when they lost in the wild card round. They've been in the playoffs a total of 23 times in 54 seasons.
Right, and I'm assuming that the year before that was 2008.
I believe you're right. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I wasn't far off. Yeah, I think Matt Moore was actually the quarterback of the Dolphins in 2016. Yes. So.
But anyway, please continue. I'm sorry.
Going back to Kevin Stefanski, I mean, let's face it. Baker Mayfield came into the season with his third head coach, or his fourth, if you really want to count Greg Williams when he was an interim head coach. He had I forgot his name top of my head, but then you had Greg Williams. Then you had Freddie Kitchens, who now ironically works with the New York Giants. Has actually done a pretty good job. I think he's the running backs coach. The running backs?
Tight ends coach.
Tight ends coach. He could be better. Could do better considering. But anyway, Freddie Kitchens' last only year, they bring in Kevin Stefanski. And look, they have the pieces around. Nick Chubb. They have Kareem Hunt. They had Odell Beckham Jr. before he tore his ACL and was out for the year. Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, David Ngakoue, who's still very solid. Donovan's Peoples-Jones doing really well. That defense is a concern to me. Considering they were blowing out the Titans and they only ended up winning by 7. Now, whether you want to say, the Browns took their foot off the gas, whatever, they still give up a lot of points, which is why, as a Giants fan, you feel confident when you play the Browns because, if you slow down that offense of the Browns, chances are you're going to end up having success against that defense.
But by the way, the Giants-Browns game got flexed to a Sunday nighter in a couple of weeks.
Well,
in favor of the Cowboys.
Well,
what does that say to you about the Cowboys and how awful they've been?
Nobody wants to see the Cowboys play. What are they playing? The Chargers? Who were they putting? I forgot who they were playing.
Stand by. I'll find out for
but
you.
it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to see that. They would rather see a game between two teams that are competing for wild card spots, playoff spots. They're looking to try to do that, and that's really cool. But I think the biggest thing that
the Cowboys play the 49ers that week, by the way.
Yeah, and nobody wants to watch that unless you're a fan of one of those teams or fantasy. I don't really think you want to watch that.
Oh, man.
The biggest thing that Kevin Stefanski has done more than anything else is that he has helped Baker Mayfield kind of reach that potential that we were all talking about a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And it's, Baker Mayfield has struggled, when he's in the shotgun, but when he does play action, he's tremendous. A lot of those scores that he had against Tennessee were via the play action. So so that's really important. But nonetheless, Baker Mayfield has looked like he has really, really proven that he is the guy. And that's really great. And they're doing all this again without someone like Odell Beckham Jr., which would obviously be, a huge bonus for the Browns if they had him.
I was just going to bring that up. And granted, he still has Jarvis Landry. He still has Njoku. He still has Kareem Hunt. And I'm forgetting Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb. I'm sorry.
Yep.
But he still has quite a few weapons to give the ball to. So even without OBJ, he's still getting the job done.
Right, and then you have a guy like Sean McDermott in Buffalo who, look, McDermott is a little bit more of a defensive-minded coach, but he understood that he needed to put the right pieces around Josh Allen because he knew he had the talent. You saw how they played last year. You saw how they showed a lot of promise. This year they said, okay, what do we need? Well, now we need a legitimate number one receiver.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, Stephon Diggs is available. So let's go give, Minnesota what they want and let's go from there. And the Bills were willing to do that because they believe that they are willing to take that next step to being a competitive, good football team.
Right.
And so far it's worked out. Stephon Diggs is having his best season of his career. He has become a tremendous number one receiver. He has helped Josh Allen develop so well. That offensive line is doing tremendous. Guys like Cole Beasley are also really helping him. Tyler Kroft as well, their tight end. All in all, it's really helped Josh Allen really become a guy that really should be considered for a most valuable player this year.
Thank you.
I think that the MVP this year is kind of up in the air. I don't think there's a definitive leader. I think 1 week it was Russell Wilson, another it could be.
Well, I know everybody's talking about Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen is definitely in that discussion. I think he should be. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being a finalist for that. But, their defense is really solid with not a lot of big names except someone like Micah Hyde, who, I think is still one of the best safeties in the National Football League. I think he's certainly top 5 in my opinion. And what the Bills do better than they've done in many years is that they're just an intimidating type of team. They really just come in with a lot of swagger, a lot of confidence, and they come out, they sling that football around, and they have a lot of success. Biggest question mark is their running game is suspect. They don't really have a legitimate running back. Maybe in the offseason they go and get that. Hopefully that's not the downfall for them this year.
Right.
But we'll see. But I think that Sean McDermott has done a great job. He has gotten the Buffalo Bills to be relevant and be competitive, which is something that has been lacking since, the 90s when they were going to 4 straight Super Bowls. I mean, this is a really, really good job by Sean McDermott. Definitely deserves to be high on the list. And then you have 2 guys like we just talked about, Ron Rivera and Joe Judge. Both of them, same situation, coming in to change the attitude, to change the culture of the team. And for both of these guys, it took them a little while to get everybody to buy in. But the players have bought into what these coaches have been saying. And as a result, they are the 2 best teams in the NFC East, which if you go back to the beginning of the year, we thought the Cowboys and Eagles were going to be the 2 best teams.
Yep.
And it's kind of been like almost
the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. And it would be 2020 for it to be the exact opposite of what we're
exactly
saying. But you look at Ron Rivera, he's done a tremendous job with a team that doesn't really even have a name. And the job that he's done with Alex Smith, where people thought, even if he just got into 1 game, right, that would be great. Now he's taken over as the starting quarterback and has done very well. Look, they're not a deep threat team offensively. They're very much a West Coast dink and dunk type of team, but it works. And they have good running backs. McKissick, unfortunately, they lost their starting running back, or up-and-coming running back, whose name escapes me at the moment, that got hurt against the Steelers. So that's difficult, but you look at their schedule. I think if you compare it to the Giants, they have an easier schedule moving forward. I think they have a legitimate shot of making the playoffs, as good of a shot as the Giants do.
By the way, are you referring to Antonio Gibson?
Yes, I am referring to Antonio Gibson, who
okay.
I don't know what the extent of his injury is. Hopefully Washington can get him back sooner rather than later. But Riverboat Ron has done a great job, and I'm sure that the only thing that's been a bothersome thing for him is that they lost 2 games to the team that's in first place, and that is the New York Giants. And I think it would be an even more competitive game if both of these teams faced off again, considering where these two teams are. And then you have Joe Judge, like we mentioned. And like you said, how has Joe Judge not lost the locker room, especially when you started the season 1-7? First half of the year, you're 1-7.
And 0-5.
I think the reason is because they lost these games by 1, 2, 3, 4 points.
Right.
That was the big thing for me. If they were getting blown out all the time, that would be different. But because that they were so close to winning a handful of those games in the first half of the season, they never stopped believing that they could win these games.
And the only game they really got blown out was against the 49ers.
Right, and that was the second week of the season, I believe. Yeah, like second or third week of the season. So it wasn't like again, you're trying to build chemistry with your teammates. You look at the second half of the year, they're already 4-0. They already have they've already guaranteed themselves a 500 record in the second half of the season with 4 games to go.
Yep.
And they sit there with a defense that is top 5 since week 5. They are top 5 in the NFL in total defense, led by guys like you mentioned, Blake Martinez, James Bradbury, Logan Ryan. Oh, and by the way, Leonard Williams, who is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL and will certainly get paid $20-25 million next season because he deserves it.
He has definitely made a name for himself.
And
he's resurrected himself.
He's 25 years of age. This dude has another 7, 8, maybe even 10 years left in the league.
Yep.
I do hope the Giants bring him back. I do think that they will give him a substantial amount. It would be disappointing to see him go, but we'll see. Logan Ryan, the same thing. I found this out, that Logan Ryan actually also has an earpiece in his helmet like Blake Martinez, because basically Logan Ryan's considered the backup defensive quarterback for that defense, where if Blake Martinez has to come out of the game for whatever reason, the guy who gets told the plays is Logan Ryan. That's how much they value Logan Ryan in that defense. Patrick Graham has done a phenomenal job of throwing out so many different formations that you don't really know what you're going to see in this game. And that's what you saw with Russell Wilson. He looked confused a lot of the time, when he was in that game against the Giants. But Joe Judge, going back to him, a no-nonsense guy. He's learned from 2 of the best coaches in football history in Nick Saban in Alabama and Bill Belichick with the Patriots. He's won Super Bowls. He knows what it takes to win. He knows what it takes to, make sure that you correct and do well with the fundamentals. They've gone back to basics. And this is an old school type team. They're not a big offensive team. They're actually ranked 31st in the National Football League. The only offense that's worse is the Jets.
Right.
And you look at that and you say, look, Daniel Jones, what they've done is they've simplified it for him, where he's not forcing it. He doesn't have to be the savior. He doesn't have to do everything on his own. And that's why he hasn't turned over the ball in the last 3 games that he's played. Do I still think that there's the possibility that he's not the franchise quarterback? Yes, I do. Because somebody brought up the idea that maybe the Giants move on from Daniel Jones and bring in someone like, I don't know, Matthew Stafford if the Lions wanted to. And that wouldn't necessarily be that bad of an idea, because Matthew Stafford, I still think, has 4 or 5 years left in the NFL. And considering that the Giants are on the rise, so to speak, maybe. I doubt it, considering that it would probably be more money to get Matthew Stafford than it would be to keep Daniel Jones.
Yeah, but would he really want to leave the Lions?
It's not about will he want to leave the Lions. It's that if the Lions want him to go.
Because,
again, the Lions fired Matt Patricia. They fired their general manager. They may just go into full rebuild mode and they just want to move on from everybody. Fair
enough.
So that's always a possibility. Somebody threw that out there. Didn't think it was that bad of an idea. But if Daniel Jones can continue to not turn over the ball and just win football games, not having to be the savior, I would just say keep him, because then we don't. If that means that we can eventually become a Super Bowl contender without a quarterback throwing for 5,000 yards and he's just not turning over the ball, that's fine with me. That really is. And I'm cool with it. And I want Daniel Jones to succeed. And I've been happy the last couple of weeks that he looks more confident, that he's not turning over the football. I was frustrated because him being a running quarterback and him getting hurt like that on a run frustrates me a lot because I hate that. Hopefully he's almost 100% going into the game against Arizona. I still think the Giants can win with Colt McCoy at quarterback because, again, that one turnover he had was not really entirely his fault.
No, Evan Ingram just needs to catch a football.
Albeit it was, kind of behind Evan Ingram, so it was a combination of both of them. But Colt McCoy didn't have to be like the possible Heisman Trophy winner that he was at Texas. He just went out there and did what was asked of him. And, if the Giants keep following this formula, it's going to end up with them winning more football games.
Yep.
And the Giants believe that they can win with whoever is at quarterback and whoever's on the field. Because Joe Judge puts that belief in them that they're just as good, if not better, than the team that they're facing that day. And the Giants have a tough schedule ahead. They got Arizona this week. They have a legitimate shot of winning that game. I think that's more of a coin flip than really anything.
They have the Browns the following week.
Browns the following week on Sunday night. So that'll be interesting.
And then they have the Ravens and the Cowboys.
Then they have the Ravens, and you don't really know what you're going to get from the Ravens. You really don't. And by that time, which will be the second to last week of the season, they might have already clinched a playoff spot. So maybe they might not play, as hard, if that makes sense, and, we'll see. And then they play the Cowboys. And you can't convince me that the Cowboys are going to go in and beat the Giants.
No, you can't. You can't.
The Cowboys will be dead in the water. I mean, they already are, but they would be really dead in the water just trying to end the season. And the Giants, especially if let's say they have to win that game to make the playoffs, they're going to have to go all out. But, Joe Judge has done a tremendous job. And I think if the Giants do make the playoffs, I think if they find a way to win the division, make the playoffs, I think Joe Judge goes much higher on the list of it, considering where they started the season. But I'm going to kind of agree with you. I'm going to agree with you that I think probably at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin is going to win it, considering what he's done. I do think Brian Flores is a close second. And I think probably Joe Judge, again, if he can make the playoffs and, and everything, I think he'll jump to like third. Same thing with Ron Rivera. If the Washington goes on to win the playoff, make the playoffs, then, then he should be in that top three. But all these guys, in one way or another, definitely deserve to be on the list and definitely deserve to get a lot of consideration for the job that they've done so far, because there's still 4 games left for all these teams. Be interesting to see how it goes down the stretch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, bottom line is Neil and I do agree. We do think that Mike Tomlin will end up winning Coach of the Year, although don't be surprised if any of the other guys we mentioned win it, because they have a hell of a chance to. And on that note, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Bottom Line Podcast. If you have any thoughts on anything we discussed, and let us know who you think will win Coach of the Year. But if you have any thoughts, let us know on Twitter and Instagram at BottomLineWMCX and on Twitter at the NVP Show, #BottomLine. Leave a voice message on the Anchor app or at Anchor.fm. And please, again, if you're watching on YouTube, if you like what you see, leave a like and a comment down below. It helps out tremendously. And please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single episode. And please make sure you subscribe on all audio listening platforms. Just include Jimmy when searching for this podcast. Coming up in the next episode, we are straying away from sports only for a little bit. Don't worry, because we are putting the spotlight on an incredibly talented musician. Her name is Lindsay Artcop. She's one of my really, really good friends. Neil, I know you've probably done a little bit of research on her, so it should be very, very interesting to see where this goes. I'm putting you to the test again with music, my friend. I did it with First to 11. Now I'm doing it with this young lady.
You just want to embarrass me so that people can get it. Yeah, Neil doesn't know anything but sports, so there's your answer.
No, nothing about embarrassing, my man. You should know. Outside of sports, music is also one of my biggest passions. Those are my 2 biggest passions in life: music and sports. So, hey, it can go either way. We'll see. It should be fun. Lindsay Artcop is coming up in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. For Neil Villapiano, I'm Jimmy Finizzi. This is the Bottom Line Podcast. See you in the next episode.